Hey guys. How are y'all doing? Hey Dink Dink. Hey Jane. Hey GB. It is Taco Tuesday, huh? I forgot about that. We didn't have tacos. Hey Echoes. Not really, honestly. It's kind of actually interesting because while she says a couple of things that are interesting for sure, whenever you hear the way that she sounds when she talks about Bryan, she says it with a smile in her voice. Like it's almost like she had a crush on the guy, honestly. But the thing that the problem that I'm having and why I have like misinfo in the title is because this was posted June 26th, I think it has on there. And that's after the hearings and stuff. And this person is still like harking on the cell phone pings and stuff that we have now been told literally doesn't exist. So I'm like, why the hell is this person still talking about this like it's factual? Hey, Allie. Hey, Legendary. So yeah, that's why it's on there, because I found it interesting that this person's, they have this podcast and they say that they're following it for real. I'm like, why are you so behind? So I don't know when this interview actually took place. It was just posted on iHeart. Now I was looking for stuff to look for and saw this, and then I looked on YouTube and it looks like the Turkey Boys, I guess, went through this too. Hey, Iona. I didn't watch theirs. I listened to this for the first time today whenever I was taking the audio down, because this isn't coming from iHeart. We're going to be watching it from me downloading the sound, cutting out the commercials, cutting out the extra boo-boo music stuff and stuff that's irrelevant, and putting it on just like a background thing so that we can just listen to it normal. Hey. Yeah, like it sounds like you're right. So you've heard it. Yeah, like there's certain things that she says where you could hear it in her voice. Hey. You haven't? Okay, cool. You haven't. Okay. Yeah, because I know that like a lot of people that watch me don't watch the Turkey Boys. So they're like, hey Jackie, they're really like the only ones I saw that had done a video on it, at least whenever I looked at the time. No, it's been sitting in my favorites bar for a few weeks now. Hey. You heard it was interesting but hadn't heard it. Okay. Hangs. Hey. So yeah, we're gonna give it like another 2 or 3 minutes, let some people come in. We usually give it like 5. And then we're gonna listen to it. Now again, it's from iHeart. I'll have the link, should be in the description box. I don't know what their take was. I have no idea. I'm gonna try to start streaming at least every Tuesday and Thursday from 7 to 9. Maybe. For sure on Sundays I want to do something. You haven't heard it? Okay. Okay, good. I'm glad. Okay. I mean, I know, almost like every photo that we've seen of him somewhere, he's surrounded by women. And then even in the story of like where the feds apparently interviewed people that were at this pool party that he went to, he got chicks numbers to the pool party. So I'm like, are you? Yeah, they're the only ones I saw on YouTube when I checked it. Oh, thanks for joining, Corinne. I'm going to be out of here before 9. I want to do every Tuesday and Thursday from 7 to 9, and then Sunday will probably be random, just depending on what I have to do. Yeah, I want to try to make it a little bit more consistent. And of course, popping up whenever something important happens. Hey, you've been able to make it again. This is a lady. I'm going to call her a lady, a woman. She's a grown-ass woman, right? She was in Bryan Kohberger's criminology class whenever he was a TA, and her outlook of him is not a negative one at all, and that's kind of something in common. Like pretty much everything that we are hearing about people getting like a weird vibe or like being creeped out by Bryan, it's all like third-party information with no identity. People that have been like actually around him a lot and used to like run with him and be in class with him, a lot of them don't have negative outtakes. I don't like the turkey show. I don't like how they present things, so I don't really watch it. No, that's not gonna happen. Yeah. And I mean, again, I don't really know how their feelings were on it. I don't really like getting my opinions from other channels. I like to listen to it myself and form my own opinion. Yay. You're not been there yet. Oh, thanks for joining, Jake. More likes. Oh, it's after 5. Oh, did he do something cray-cray? You know what? I don't even want to know. Unless it's something horrible, then I'll figure it out. But I don't want to know. Hey. I know. And actually, oh my gosh, is Dinky still in here? I know Dinky was like the first one to comment. He might have left. Dink, and that reminded me of Willie, because Willie is somebody who went to like school at some point back in Pennsylvania with Bryan, and one of the guys that was being interviewed by mainstream media, he did like a live with Willie, and he was telling Willie that every time he tried to say something positive about Bryan, the news person that was doing the interview kept trying to like redirect him and try to make him answer like negatively about Bryan, and it really got on his nerves. Like it really bothered him a lot the way that it was happening. I need to get that and talk about it. I've been on Daniel's show before. It's been a long time. It's been well over a year. Me and Dago went on DTS and talked, but it's been a while. Hey. Yeah. I mean, I don't get a weird vibe from him. I mean, sometimes I don't like the way he looks in certain photos, but you can also but you can tell that they've gone in and edited his eyes bigger and they've done stuff to his face. Just insane. Oh, well, I appreciate it. I mean, definitely go get other opinions and, surf around. I mean, yeah, that's here nor there because that could happen with anybody. Yeah, Willie is 2 years older than him. How would you know? Okay. Okay, so I don't know if I've hey. Just want to make sure I don't miss anybody. Yeah, I'm gonna try to do. There's actually one that I find like pretty important. I want to talk about this Sunday because it's something I wanted to talk about. It is. It's something I wanted to talk about. Call in Friday for what? For where? Over at Daniel's. It's something I wanted to talk about during the Riley Strain case, and it's becoming like an even bigger situation that we need to talk about. Just in general for safety, especially with what's going on in Austin, that the Lady Bird Lake situation is getting like really scary. Yeah. So I don't know. But okay, I'm going to let me see if I can switch my let me get off camera for a second. I'm gonna switch my headset because I'm gonna listen to this with y'all. Now, when I was listening to this, like I was listening to it for the first time today whenever I was downloading the oh, thank you, Danny, but I'm about to put it in a headset. I only had it down because I knew it was going to end up being behind a headset. I only listened to like bits and pieces of this as I was getting the audio for tonight because I was working whenever I got it. So whenever I wasn't on hold, I wasn't listening. So there's pieces of this that I have not heard yet. So if you guys haven't listened to the whole thing, I mean, I'm kind of right there with you because, again, I've only heard like bits and pieces because I was busy when I was downloading it and I didn't really listen to the in-betweens. I didn't really listen to the in-betweens whenever I was doing the edit or whatever. Okay, let me get my audio switched to my headset and then I will get this thing started. Give me just a second. Okay. Can y'all hear me on this microphone? Let me know. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. I was muted so I could get switched over because I was using my my pink microphone that y'all haven't seen. It's just off camera somewhere. Somebody said something earlier. I can't remember what it was. Oh, do you? Yeah, it's more like there's some crazy stuff going on. Okay, good. There's some crazy stuff going on when it comes to like that bar scene and drugs and stuff like that. And there's like not a lot of info out there, really, at least not available, just like willy-nilly everywhere, normal, like ads and stuff. that tell you how to like protect yourself really. Like I know that they have like caps and stuff that you can put on drinks and stuff like that, but there's been other things that are like literally not noticeable, unisex, that could have been done, and those things don't get funding and they just like disappeared. I don't really quite understand it. And I don't know if it's because of like sexism, maybe. I don't really know, because it seems like the one that I looked at that like a group of males made got completely just like thrown into the dust. And then this one that these women made, though it was like great, cool, or whatever, but it's still like a product you have to carry with you. It's inconvenient. And I'm just like, what happened? I don't understand. So I want to kind of talk about like all the different things and like just ways to protect yourself. I'm not in the bar scene, but I have kids that are, you know, growing up and stuff like that. And it just scares me. And it's just stuff that I want to talk about. Okay. We're going to play this. Now, again, this is a girl named Cassie. She is interviewing with a woman named Stephanie that is from the KT Studios podcast. Cassie was a criminology student. She has since she switched her major. She is now a psychology student, I think she ends up saying. I'm going to play the parts where she speaks about herself too, because it gives you like insight into her when it comes to like her, I guess, like mindset and what she has to say, because it's interesting. I don't feel like she has a lot of like negativity at all. But she does say some stuff that definitely catches your attention, because it's stuff that we heard a long, long time ago, but it was more like rumors and like third-party stuff. This is coming out of like the face of the person that was actually there and witnessing it happen in real time in the classroom after the event. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and press play. Nothing changes, guys, by the way. Like, this is like what it's going to look like. Actually, I bet you I can like change this up a little bit. Let me see. Because there's like nothing for you to watch. It's literally, let me see if I can change. Oh, that's not what I want it to look like. Can it make me bigger? Yay! Make me bigger. Make this a little bit smaller, because I promise you it doesn't change. The photo it doesn't change at all. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna press play and I guess drop some sort of something emoji to get my attention. I don't know what kind of emoji, just something colorful. If you want me to stop and say something about something that she says.
There's been a lot of press about this case out there. So really our goal is always like less about the massacre itself and more about the human experience, right? You have such a unique perspective on that. So take me back to day one, how you got to that particular school and what you're studying, and kind of even the first day of class. Are you a criminology major?
Not anymore. No. Makes sense.
Is that the event? Sometimes paths shift, right? So your destiny has been obviously wildly affected by this particular crime. So for obvious reasons. So yeah, just take me.
Where was this stated at? I've never heard that before ever.
Back to your experience at school and kind of how you made it to that class.
All right. Well, I thought about criminology for a while because it's just like, it's so interesting to get into. You get to learn about literally the criminal like behavior of these criminals' minds and like what works. And so I was also considering psychology at the time, which is now my major. I had that as a minor. But yeah, so the second week I remember going and he did introduce Bryan and his other TA, I forgot his name, and then just kind of went into the details of the class. And this class was pretty big. I would say like 300 students. It was a lecture hall, so very, very big class.
Just for clarity, Bryan Kohberger, the accused, he was the teacher's assistant, right? We always call it a TA, but that's short for teacher's assistant, right?
Yeah, so he was the teacher's assistant, their little helper while they're still in school, basically, just to get the knowledge.
So to be a teacher's assistant, it's kind of like a secondary teacher, obviously, right? They're a current student. In Bryan's case, he was getting his PhD and was also working as a teacher's assistant in this particular criminology class, which makes sense. They help with grading. And do they participate in class?
They do. Usually it's when a teacher notices a kid doing up and above. So kind of like just doing all their work, just really like teaching others. That's just kind of like how they pick out the TAs, just who stands out to them. So
So Bryan was probably a pretty exemplary student in order to even have that kind of a prestigious place.
Definitely. Yeah, I think so. He definitely.
So there's like the first common theme here, because didn't we hear the same thing from Ramslin about how she even like recommended him for this in the first place?
Had some knowledge to get in there, and our professor was a very tough dude, so it had to take a lot for him to see something.
What was the class about?
We covered literally.
I mean, you can like talk shit, but this person is first name, no face. So what 5, which it's 15, not 5. What 15 minutes of fame are they looking for if they're not out here with their face all over the place? Make it make sense.
How to get away with murder. Like, we covered pretty good basis, because our professor at the time, he was a very like knowledgeable man. Like, he worked with judges and he was a lawyer for years, and he worked with a lot of authority.
Recently? Is there another one? Because I know that like all the other females that I've seen, besides birthing hips, had anything negative to say. But if there's another one, let me know.
So he wanted to teach it how he learned, which was case studies, like actually living it. So we went into a lot of detail about criminal behavior, the behavior, why criminals do the thing. But this was more about cases. We would look over like a lot of cases and things.
That's what I said right there. We talked about this when we went over the documentation about the timeline on if he was actually fired or not. I was like, okay, but all of this stuff was going on at the exact same time where he was actually getting in trouble with his professor. And if he was really as nitpicky as she's trying to make it seem, then he seems like he was really wanting perfection, because it seems like he also tries to bring perfection into his own like studies and stuff, right? At least that's how it seems from what we know. Just my opinion. Okay. But it seems like the big thing was stop being so hard and realize like you're a human. And maybe that's what one of the big faults was that he had, that he was getting in trouble for, is that he was grading a whole lot harder than he should have. And it was causing people to get worse grades than they deserved. And that just, I mean, that's a serious issue. You know what I mean? Like, you really have to be able to meet in the middle.
Things like that. And we would go over the law. So a lot of just criminal justice things, a lot of lawyer and judge work.
Is there a part of you, because I'm still on the fence of, I really want to believe that Bryan Kohberger is innocent. He claims his innocence. I want to believe that because I like to believe that a human being couldn't pull that off. But again, I don't know him the way you do. Is there a part of you that thinks maybe he is innocent?
There is, yeah. I've had like a lot of people reach out to me just kind of like bashing him, like a lot of just like newspapers and stuff like that, kind of just like, oh, like trying to get like every little scoop out of me to like make him out to be a bad guy. But in reality, like, it's just someone's life that we're talking about, and it's like his reality as well. So there's a lot to take into like consideration there. Like, why would you want someone to go through all that and do all that and to think that they would, you know, be capable of something like that? Like, it just blows my mind how people are thinking about this case.
Yeah.
In retrospect, what did he seem like?
I remember walking in. Actually, he was pretty noticeable, believe it or not. But
listen to how she talks about him.
I walked in, saw him, and he just didn't say anything for weeks. He just like stood there fiddling with his cup. And this class was like an hour and a half long, sometimes up to 2 hours. Like, it just depended. It was a very long class for him to just be standing up in front of everyone. So when I was bored in the class, I would honestly just watch him because I had nothing to do. I already like
her smiling
looked at the notes
in her
and
voice.
stuff, and so I would just like, there's nothing else to watch.
And did that seem weird?
She just be watching him. What?
To have somebody just standing there for an hour and a half, is that normal or is that odd behavior?
With my other TAs, they're definitely like on their laptop, and sometimes you would see him like go on here and there, but never for like more than like 10 minutes, I would say. Or he would just like sit down in front of the class, or sometimes he wouldn't even be there, it would just be the professor.
And see, that's common because the guy that he used to run with said he used to run with Bryan because he made him feel safe. And then the girl that he approached about putting her security stuff in the apartment, he didn't hear about an issue and insert his own self, okay? She went to him because Bryan made her feel safe. She approached him for help. That's a common theme here.
But compared to our other TA, he would be on his laptop. Our teacher would be asking him to go do TA things like, hey, can you pull up this lecture and stuff like that. I just never saw any of that from Bryan.
Was he just also observing the class, or did it seem like he was just staring off into space?
Off to space, honestly. He would look up a couple times, but honestly, just like in his own little world.
And did he seem like he was interested in the content?
I mean, you could say that, but anytime I've ever had dinner with my mom's youngest brother, he stands when he eats, and he stands all day at work. Like, some people just prefer to stand. I stand in situations that I probably shouldn't stand up in because I sit all day. I sit all day doing this. I sit all day for my job. I sit all day whenever I have to do the bills. I sit all day. So a lot of times I stand for stuff I shouldn't either. No, it's not a video. It's a podcast. So I put this background to it, and we're listening to the commercial-free audio.
Or like, you know how somebody, you could see them and they look like they already know the information, so they're kind of just nodding along? Or was he kind of checked out?
I would say both. Most of the time when like he looked like me in that situation. Like, he was just like sometimes nodding here and there. I remember the professor trying to get his attention a couple times, and it would take him a couple times to like snap into it.
So here you.
Do you know where you got that first thing that you said, Tara? About people apparently seeing him at U of I? Because I'd like to see where that was stated from.
You're in your criminology class. You're just observing 300-ish people around you.
So many.
And yeah, you just sort of are looking at the people in front of you. So in this case, it's the professor and 2 additional teacher assistants. He's one of them. And did Bryan Kohberger and the other teacher assistant have any kind of a rapport?
No. I think I saw them together in the class maybe one time. But other than that, they were either switching off or there was no TA at all.
How would you describe him physically?
He had a very clean look, very always shaven, very like hair done. He was always wearing like sweaters and jeans and looked nice. He was tall, white, dark hair, very skinny, slim fit. He just always seemed like he was just there, not interacting or anything, just there.
He had said that he seemed.
Y'all heard that? I know that I am like been out the game for a minute. But I heard that. She is like reminiscing and seeing him in her head as she is talking about him and smiling as she is discussing him. Yeah, she is like in daydream land discussing Bryan Kohberger. Or as my son calls him, Mr. Burger. I talk about this stuff so much that even my 6-year-old knows Bryan Kohberger's name. Yeah. What the shit is the M word? Murder. Yeah, see? Like the way that she's describing him in his sweater vests. So freaking. Oh. So funny. Like I heard this and I was like, bro, right? And if she's just one girl, how many of the 300 in that class actually had a crush on teacher? Isn't that insane?
Seemed noticeable at first. What was noticeable? The fact that he was so quiet?
I guess so. I just wasn't what I was expecting when I first walked in the class. It was a lot to take in all at once. I feel like we were getting a lot of information, and half the time my brain would just check out and just automatic eyes to him because he was the only other person down there.
Did he have any friends?
Not that I saw. I mean, he was a very closed-off TA. Some TAs like to share about their life and give us a whole PowerPoint and stuff, and he never saw that one from him.
I heard that earlier and I was like, excuse me? So some of these TAs are so self-centered that they literally put together an entire PowerPoint and just get up there and be like, this is me. I'm like, what? That's insane.
So I don't know much about his personal life, but very kept to himself anytime I saw him on campus or in class or office hours.
Did you have office hours with him?
Yes, it would be with a couple kids. I only went twice. Both times were unhelpful, so I left. It's basically just like a time to ask him questions, to ask him about work, to do work with.
Okay, well, I mean, seriously, for one, you obviously have some sort of amnesia, like your name states, because you're sitting out here saying that you would venture that his mom and sister are creeped out by him, but you haven't heard a damn thing from either one of those women or the other sister or anybody actually that's blood related to Bryan Kohberger. But you're hearing things literally out of the mouths of people that actually know him that don't have a negative effect, and you're out here running your mouth. Like, you're one of those people that it doesn't matter like what gets put in front of your face, your mind is made up and your brain just can't compute. It's pretty obvious. Ridiculous.
With him to need help on case studies, just anything like that, or even studying for like a next exam or quiz. Those are what office hours are supposed to be for. But most of the time it was just a bunch of kids kind of either doing group work together or just a quiet place to like study or wherever. And he would just be like on his laptop, closed off like to himself.
Did he ever ask any personal questions to you?
No.
It's right here. What accusations? This is literally a person's freaking actual mouth actually talking. Where has his mother spoken or his sister spoken anywhere about being freaked out or creeped out by Bryan? It's not accusations backed up. Like, that whole statement, have proof to back those accusations. What freaking accusations? Do you even know English? Do you even have like definitions in your brain to use? You're not even making any actual sense. Jeez. Oh, see, I'm new to live, so I don't know all the trolls. So if they say something else, I'm just going to see, look, they're stupid. Who the fuck said that? I said she sounds like she has a crush on him. Yeah, you're like dumb. And I really just honestly don't want to deal with you. Especially since people that I like actually trust on here to say that you suck. So, banned. I can't deal with stupid people. I just can't. I can't deal with stupid people.
No, I remember like trying to have a conversation one
they're
time
banned.
because I needed help with one of the assignments, and it was just kind of like, well, did you review the work? And I'm like, yes, I reviewed the work. And so kind of gave my attitude back, but it was,
I remember that.
Yeah, I don't know. After that time, I think
See, you saw that? Like, I want y'all to remember this part right here, because she mentioned something later on, and I want y'all to think back to this, because she just basically says that she went up to him to ask him a question, and he was just really matter of fact, like, well, did you look at the stuff? Like, did you look back at the paperwork, or did you read the book, read the chapters, whatever? That's a very like common response to like logical common sense. You'd know the answer if you read the work, you know what I mean? Later on, she says something, and I want y'all to think back to this.
No, I remember like trying to have a conversation one time because I needed help with one of the assignments, and it was just kind of like, well, did you review the work? And I'm like, yes, I reviewed the work. And so kind of gave my attitude back, but it was, yeah.
Well, did you review the work? Like, you would know, girl, if you like did the work. Like, why are you trying to talk to me? That's what that sounds like.
I don't know. After that time, I think I just didn't end up going.
So everybody wants to know the same thing, right? We all like to believe in our hearts that if we come across somebody who's violent or dangerous, that we'd get a spidey sense. Or people always talk about, I had a sixth sense. So, kind of part of even why it's so important to talk about this stuff is, I'm so curious, did you have that feeling that he was capable or off? People have called him in the press very creepy in retrospect. Or did he just seem like an ordinary guy?
Oh, I forgot to get...
To be honest, I never got any of those feelings. However, I do remember this one incident that happened when I went into class.
You can email me. I don't give my phone number out, though. But you can email me. My email is in the description box.
And usually you sit next to like a different person every day. It's not like everyone's like buddies. So sit down, and the dude next to me, like straight off the bat when Bryan came in, was like, oh, doesn't he give you like weird vibes? And I was like, and that's like one comment that since now I'm like, oh my gosh, like, how did I get, he said something about his eyes. It was like in the eyes. And now that I'm looking at him, I'm like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. But me personally, no.
So like in the days leading up, so I would imagine it's just business as usual, right? Thanksgiving break is on the horizon. You guys are taking finals probably, or at least preparing for finals. Did anything seem out of the ordinary in the days leading up to the murders in terms of your experience with Bryan?
I would say that before we even like heard. So there was like a time period of right when finals were happening and like right after, and it was straight A's, a lot of really good grades and good comments from Bryan himself. But before that, it was not so good. Very harsh grading, very not great. And I talked to so many of my classmates and they're like, did you notice your grades going up? And he would go in detail on my like work and like all my other classmates' work about how good it was.
See, and that's what we were talking about. That's what we heard before. We had heard that that's what one of the issues was that he was getting in trouble with, is that he was being too harsh of a grader. And we know that once he got back to Pennsylvania, before actual Christmas, he was still grading papers. And he was grading them nicely. I mean, like, he was grading them how they needed to be graded, but he was being like supportive. You know what I mean? So that's common. That's something that we've heard before.
But you can tell like the difference from before, that it was like, no, like you need to fix this, your grade.
Right. And it has nothing. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's the stuff that they are claiming is like evidence against Bryan is really just a bunch of like circumstantial timing type stuff. Like, really, it really is like all circumstantial timing type things, because he was having issues with the professor at the exact same time. But the way that they're trying to throw the narrative is that him losing his job was the reason why he committed the murders, but the murders happened well over a month and a half before he was ever let go. And if he was actually fired beforehand, all the things that we went over in that one video would have never happened. It just doesn't make
all that little nitty picky stuff. We also got a lot of complaints.
Mm-hmm. See, and I think that's maybe what the problem was, is that the way that we've sort of been being told is that the professor's kind of like hard to deal with. So maybe Bryan was just like not really willing to do that curve thing. He wanted to grade the way that he really felt should be graded, instead of just like handing out trophies, participation trophies, you know what I mean? But then if he can go into just as much extreme into how it's so good too, like he's not just grading it and like passing it or whatever, he's going into like extreme detail, that says a lot too, honestly. He's paying attention.
I personally didn't see a problem in it, but a lot of the female writers and all that, because
I mean, it's speculation to some people's part, but here on this channel, at least me, the creator on this channel, I do not believe that he was fired prior to his arrest.
Do a lot of case studies and we'd have to make reports on them. A lot of people just thought he was very sexist as a TA, especially in like one-on-ones. Apparently, like he showed just a lot of anger towards them in a way, which I never experienced that, so I don't know.
Okay, that's what I was talking about. So he's saying that a lot of females had issues with him and they felt like he was always angry, blah, 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 blah. But you heard how he responded to her. She went in there and asked him a question, and his response was just blunt to the point. Well, did you review the work? To a girl who wants to be a girl who gets their feelings hurt all the time. Somebody being blunt and honest, like, well, did you read the chapters? Well, you probably should read the chapters because you'll find the answers there. Somebody answering them like that is probably somebody being mean. I'm just saying. I feel like it's ridiculous. That's probably what it is. Like, if he felt like you were asking a question that you shouldn't be asking, it gets on my ever-loving nerves when somebody asks me a common sense question, because I honestly, my brain stops. And I'll just like stare at you, like literally, like just like jaw drop, like there's no way this person's brain literally works this way. And if he's getting, say 10% of his class every single day, that's what, over 30 students. Over 30 students. Imagine getting asked the same type of question over 30 times in a 2-hour time frame, and the answer literally is like found in what they were assigned. You know what I mean? Like, common sense. I feel like maybe a lot of them were not completely serious in the way that they acted about it, and maybe their feelings just got hurt because their pretty didn't work. It didn't work, and he didn't answer the question for them. They had to go back and find it because common logic. Duh. That's just what I'm saying. That's how I feel about it. I don't know. I wasn't there. But I know that he answered her the way I would answer her. If you came at me about an assignment and I was the TA and the answer was in what you were assigned to review, my first thing would have been, well, did you review the work? Yeah, that's what I would have been like. That's why I can't be a lawyer either. I'm too damn smart ass. Ain't no way. I'd be held in contempt every time. There ain't no way. That's why I'm just like, I don't know. A lot of people that are acting like that now, it's really all about perception. It's all about perception.
That's just what I got from my other classmates.
I had heard reports of that as well. Like, there was a lot written about the fact that he did these like posts to prisoners behind bars or people who have committed crimes. Like,
this is part of the misinformation, and this annoys the shit out of me because we've talked about this Reddit post I don't know how many times and already discussed how it was not a single project. It was a group project assigned to him and the other students from DeSales, and it even had one of the professor's emails on the like recipients for contact list. So when she says all of this, I'm like, girl, do you pay attention at all? It's a little ridiculous because this is old news to get wrong.
Like, he almost did this poll to see what their personality traits were like, or, when they knew it was time to kill, or sort of, it seemed as though he was profiling murderers, right? To sort of better understand how their brain worked.
I mean, she's a character witness, if anything, because she felt safe around him and learned from him and all the things. She's not saying anything bad. I'm not saying she's an actual character witness, just to be clear, because I don't know. I'm just saying she would be, in my brain, a character witness.
And then this hideous day happens. Tell me about that day.
Honestly, it was just another day because when we all heard about it, we were very heartbroken, but we didn't hear from the school or anything. We just heard from like news. We didn't even know, like, it didn't even click that it was in Idaho at U of I until like maybe the next week, like, is when it like really hit me and my roommate and anyone close to me, really. Like, it just didn't register. And then when everything started catching up over break and stuff is when it really just hit me, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is pretty close. And then when I really started to realize is when I would get calls from out of state family, and they'd be like, you gotta get home, like, it's almost break, like, why aren't you there early, and all that stuff. And my mom and my dad, my siblings, just constant calls about, get my ass home because it's getting a little scary, especially when they hadn't like caught him and all that.
During that time, there was a national manhunt. It must be a very scary feeling to know that there is a killer at large, frankly, targeting beautiful girls like yourself in the same exact age group.
It was pretty scary because everyone at WSU was wondering, what are we supposed to do? Because U of I had already set a curfew, and they took, precautions, and they closed like class for a couple days or something like that. They took their precautions, but WSU was like, no. They sent out an email. They were like, this has nothing to do with us. We, they were like, we send our love to the family.
At least not that this is not what she's claiming here. Not with what she's claiming here.
They expressed that pretty well, but they were also like, this isn't our business. We will continue.
She was a criminology student in the class that Bryan was the TA for. Since the situation, she switched from criminology to psychology. And apparently, well, what you'll hear later on is that her and a bunch of other students from that place, from that WSU campus, switched to a different location. Same umbrella school, but different location.
Continue class. We will not have a curfew. And then to think that it was like under their own roof is like, like, are you kidding? And for the people like,
why are we talking about freaking Enon? Who mentioned Enon? And why are we talking about Enon? He's cray-cray.
Myself and the couple other 100 kids who stayed when everyone else left, when they found out there was a murder on the loose.
In Moscow. And I think it was like 45 minutes, honestly. There was like an alert that went out, and then like there was another one like 45 minutes later. Pretty positive.
That's terrifying. Like, he was like probably on campus, doing his thing until he left for his break. And the fact that he was in class and still replying to our campus notifications. And I would get like, I remember looking at all the emails that he sent me after it all happened. And a couple weeks later, they were just gone. And I was like,
you heard that? They not only erased him from working there after his arrest, but a few weeks afterwards, they also erased him from their system completely. So even all of the notes and the emails that she had from Bryan, erased, deleted from the system completely.
like, oh my God.
What does that mean? They were gone? Like they got removed?
Yeah. So any Canvas notifications I had from him, because I literally remember like looking through all of them, and I was like, just, kind of like observing all of them and seeing if I noticed anything. And I had all of his little edits and stuff. And then I went back one day to look at them, and Canvas had removed.
I had all of his little edits and stuff. You cannot sit here and tell me this girl wasn't crushing the hell out of Bryan. Going back and reading all this stuff, like maybe looking over it once after your professor or TA gets arrested because you're trying to like wrap your mind around it, right? But going back and looking it all over and over again and say all of his little edits. But for it to just like delete completely, like that means that from like her inbox, stuff was removed from her inbox. That's wild.
Removed all of them. It was just very in detail, good notes about my work after everything happened. Very like, it wasn't short and sweet.
See, that's what I mean too. He wasn't just like grading better. He was grading better, but also paying enough attention to give lengthy explanations for why he was giving the good grade. So like he wasn't just passing them, because that's kind of what they sort of made it out to be, if I can remember correctly. And y'all tell me if you guys like remember this just by like saying, yeah, you remember or whatever. But y'all remember how it went from being like really detailed, harsh grading to just like, oh yeah, you pass, you pass, you pass. This sounds like it's the opposite. It sounds like he was really paying attention and giving detailed reasons as to why he was now giving like a good grade. It wasn't just a, yeah, whatever, I have to be nice, check mark and move on. It's like the opposite.
So this man potentially murdered 4 people, and then he went back to class, and then he still continued to grade papers and maybe did it in a lighter, happier way.
Yes. Yeah.
So like, what do you make of that? Does that mean?
I think he was definitely trying to, if it was him, could possibly like not be him, but I think if it was, he was trying to cover it up, in a way, obviously. And that's like the first thing you do after it all goes down. You kind of want to act like nothing happened, maybe even make yourself seem a little bit better, maybe a more better guy than some of your classmates might describe you. You don't want to hear about how you might be a sexist when you just.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you mean, but I'm wondering if it's like the grades themselves were removed, like the comments on the grades themselves. I mean, the biggest problem is that he went back with no injuries. And you can't tell me that that dude could fight 4 people and walk out of there with not a single scratch. I'm sorry, but I don't know a single female who isn't going to try to aim for your face, for the eyes, for something. The fact that there was no injuries on him is the biggest problem that I have for their narrative, because there's just no freaking way. Especially not with Ethan. Hell no.
Killed like 3 girls. Like, that's not, you want to steer completely opposite of that. There were so many things that he did that just didn't make sense. If you were getting your PhD in criminology or criminal justice or whatever, why would you go the route of revisiting the place so many times and not checking your phone ping? That's one of the first things we learned in class, everything, how you get caught. And so he already had this down, so it doesn't really make sense why he would do so many things to jeopardize people catching him.
That was my first like clue that something was off. Reading the PCA, and the very first thing that caught my attention after like we barely knew that Bryan was a criminology student. Didn't know the extent of like who was recommending him and how like great his grades were and how smart he was. We didn't know none of those things yet. Okay. Very first thing I read was that he didn't turn his cell phone off till after he left his apartment. And I was like, oh no, this don't sound right. Something's wrong. That doesn't make sense. And she disagreed with that. And I don't know if it's going to play here in a minute or if I cut it out, because I tried to make it to where it was just the interview questions. But I'm going to say it anyway, just in case it doesn't say it. The girl, the lady who's narrating it, I believe it's a different person than the interviewer. The interviewer's name is Stephanie. The girl's name is Cassie. And then there's like a narrator voice. She's like harking on the cell phone pings and being around the house and stuff like that. And I'm like, girl, we literally just were told by the person who's seen all the discovery that the location specific, time specific stuff for the house and the cell phone stuff is not there. So what are you talking about? And that's not mentioned in here at all. And again, this was posted June 26th. That's way after we've already known a bunch of truths here. And she doesn't mention any of that. So I'm just saying that now in case I did cut it out, because I can't remember if I cut that part out or not.
We were just reviewing this yesterday. So it sounds like he was pinged.
Oh,
just to bring
she is going to say it. Okay.
Anybody up to speed. So his cell phone
up to speed with some misinformation at that.
Pinged about 15 times in and around the area leading up to the murders and then after. But I can't agree with you more. It doesn't totally add up. That's so interesting to me that you really did study that. Tell me everything you can remember about the days after.
The days after, physically, it was his eyes for me. They were very...
Okay, this is the part that's important. And I want y'all to really pay attention to this, because just because the timeline doesn't make sense and just because we have a lot of questions doesn't mean that he doesn't have an involvement in this situation. And I have really hammered down on the fact that they have made it seem as if this was more than one person from the beginning, not just by their narrative, not just by their timeline not making any sense, but by Chief Fry's words and the ICR rules that I've mentioned 1,000 times. When I was in school, your citations were everything. You would lose, I don't even know how many freaking points if your citations were not on point, okay? To me, whenever they're citing ICR 16 1-8, they are leaving in number 2, which has to do with co-defendants. And if it was not part of this case, they would have to cite it differently. They would have to do ICR 16 1-3-8, and they don't. They leave it in there, and that bothers the crap out of me because it's more than one thing leading to that. On top of that, we have these other 3 male DNAs that they just decided to freaking stop at without ever trying to figure anything out, okay? Or he was watching somebody and was maybe following them and saw everything, and maybe that would react to this, and maybe he had to like keep quiet. I don't know. There's a lot of things here. Their narrative doesn't add up. Their timeline doesn't add up. That touch DNA doesn't make sense to me. They wouldn't have gotten rid of the house if it wasn't for a certain reason. I don't know. Now, I don't know if maybe this could be just as innocent as this happened so close to home and it was happening here in real life. And maybe that's why he was up all night and not sleeping the way that she describes it, and disheveled, because that's really the word she's looking for, disheveled, with what she's describing here. Just listen.
Anything you can remember about the days after?
The days after, physically, it was his eyes for me. They were very sunken and very black. It was like he hadn't slept in like days, maybe weeks. That's just what the appearance looked like. But I was never one to judge. I was like, okay, long night. We have finals coming up. It's okay. But yeah, that's one of the main things. And I guess a lot of unshavenness and a little messier. And then right after, you can tell the difference.
See, that's like the only thing that they've really said. Well, yeah, but just the one night. And if he was a night owl anyway, then him being up till that long wouldn't matter. So I don't know. But that's something that I've always listened to, because behavioral changes are important. I just don't think he wielded the blade. I don't think he could have gone into that house and done all these things by himself. And his car also wasn't there, but there's like a reason for this behavior. So, I mean, maybe it could be he got scolded and he knew that he had to get his shit together. And again, it's just one of those timing things. But he didn't miss any of his appointments that he had scheduled. He went and got his hair cut. He didn't skip a meet. He did not skip a beat on literally anything. He just came in a little bit more disheveled for a few days. He was grading things better. So maybe he was trying to work his brain into being more positive, and it was taking him some time to like adjust. And maybe that's why he was so disheveled. I don't know. But this is something that we heard several times. I mean, yeah, but nobody's picking on him. So this comment doesn't really matter in this situation because literally no one is picking on him. This girl seems to have a freaking crush on him. It's like the opposite. Yeah, I mean, seriously, it could have literally been stress from school. It could have literally just been the stress from school.
Can you describe what it was like to find out that Bryan Kohberger, your teacher's assistant, had been arrested and accused of the murders?
Yeah, so I was in my dorm, in the Olympia dorm at WSU, with my roommate. And I remember we were looking at a case because it came out. She's like, oh, I'm going to look at it. I was like, okay, yeah, just tell me. I was cleaning or whatever. And she was like, holy shit, Cassie, like, it says criminology. And I was like, no way. And she was like, you have to go on campus right now. I was like, why are you freaking out? Like, she wouldn't really tell me at first. And then she was like, who's your TA? So I told her, and then she was like, there's no way. You're not going to believe this. And so we both started freaking out. And yeah, that was the moment. And then she was kind of like,
that's a good quote. This is something else too. Like, there's a big possibility that he might have taken this situation as something serious to like look into because he was so interested in crime. I mean, it was his freaking career choice. So he could have just decided to, I mean, look what we're doing here on the internet. Okay. What if he decided to just do this in real life and he was like out there driving around after the fact, trying to figure stuff out, looking at people, trying to figure out the case? That's a possibility too.
Need to get the hell out of here. So she dipped a little early for Thanksgiving break. And yeah, I still had to stay that extra week. So I was just kind of like sitting with that information. And I remember not wanting to go out because even before, I remember my roommate not letting me go out. She, like, anytime I'd be like, hey, like there's a party going on. No, you're staying in. You know, there's a murderer out there. Very hard lecture about no going out and none of that. But it was just crazy.
When he went to class,
because I'm telling you, she had some sort of little crush on him or something. Because she like her whole voice, you can physically see. I don't know what this girl looks like, but I can imagine like the mouth that this is coming out of, like turning into a smile, for real, when she talks about Bryan and the way he dresses in his sweaters.
Was he participating in any of the conversations about the murders?
No, but we did discuss it in class. We did have, I don't remember if it was from the school or the class, but a lot of notifications I got from campus, you know, like discussing the murders, like kind of just like, hey, like everyone needs to stay focused, but this is a very troubled time, you know, whatever. Just giving a reminder to like all the classmates, like stay focused. But we did talk about the case, and we even like kind of went in details of everything that went down. I remember a lot of people asking questions about it, so like raising their hands and stuff, and there was a lot. So going around the room, and our professor was just there answering the questions. And I don't remember seeing Bryan in class when we did talk about it. I remember hearing that he was, but I didn't really go to class after everything happened. It kind of took me on a kind of hit me a little bit where I was like, this is getting a little too real. So I kind of stepped.
This was not Christmas though, CH. This was Thanksgiving break. It was Christmas break that Bryan left and went to Pennsylvania for. And I've always questioned, like, where was he during Thanksgiving break? Like, what was he doing? He was there, like, grading papers and stuff. But this, what she was just talking about, wasn't Christmas. It was Thanksgiving.
Back from criminology and all that.
You changed your major, huh? So, like, criminology is not your thing anymore?
I will always have a special place in my heart for criminology, but I don't think it's my time. Or, you know, when everything happened, it just got so real. And I was like, this might not be for me because, I don't know, I was just thinking too psychologically into it. And so I changed my major to my minor, which was psychology, hoping that leads to a better future with that.
It's very traumatic, and I'm super sorry that you had to even experience anything so close to something so disgusting. Did you have any knowledge, or did you know any of the victims?
No, I did not. Didn't know a lot.
See, I'm telling you. That's why I'm telling you, like, I've questioned I've questioned this. Because that part of the PCA is like the one thing that I can't let go of. And that's also could be like, that also could be the way that the damn DNA got on the freaking knife sheaths to begin with. Because what if his dumbass was just curious? Because somehow or another, I know Kim is in here. I've seen her a couple of times. There she is right there. I know. Somehow or another, there's some truth to what Kim says. She knows how I feel about it. This ain't what this video is about, though, okay? There's a huge possibility that he heard something. And he went over there, and his dumbass maybe found his way through the freaking house just to take a look. And that's how his freaking DNA ended up on a knife sheath. That's a big possibility, too. Stupider shit has happened. But that 9 o'clock to 9:32 thing is very, very odd to me. And it's very specific, especially since it says he like hung around there for 10 to 12 minutes. They can't dispute that. They have not even tried to dispute that. And there's no point in them even talking about it up until trial, if they even talk about it at trial, honestly, because it has absolutely nothing to do at the time of the crime. Now, if it does have something to do with it, then they'll end up having to talk about it, but it's hours and hours and hours later. But that 9 o'clock to 9:32 thing, I will never let go ever. Never, ever.
A lot of people from U of I knew a couple people who had friends who knew, like friend of a friend. And so even then it affected them in such a way, I could only imagine. And then we did have a couple like memorial stuff, like a candlelit thing and a little other one to show our goodbyes and place like flowers and pictures of them and stuff, like at the U of I statue, the plaque that they have. So yeah.
I've seen that. Yeah, it's pretty moving. Like even as I talk to you, I feel for your mom and dad because I would want you out of there.
And see, I find that strange too. Like I know this stuff happened towards the University of Idaho, but this was not a campus house, like I said 1,000 times. Yeah, no, y'all don't know that. Y'all don't know. I mean, you have really no idea. You might want to think that, but you just don't know. He could have literally like sneezed on the shit. Like we just don't know. He could have scratched his head like hanging over, like standing there. Like we don't know. It's touch DNA. It could have literally been anything. But also, you just never know. Some people do act on impulse, and they let their intrusive thoughts win. We don't know. We don't know. But I find it interesting that through all of this, WSU never acted like it was something that actually affected them. No one can match him to the house for the crime, Richard. For the crime. Right, he can be 20 miles away. 10 to 20, it all depends on the towers. But I know Twizzy's gone over the tower things. No. If it was, yeah, but if the button was open, anything could have gotten in there. If it was wide open. So no. I mean, maybe we need to do a video on that kind of stuff so I can like show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. But anyway, I've always thought that was a possibility because why wouldn't he like be curious about that kind of stuff? And he could be curious and stupid and still innocent. There's a million different theories. But that one specifically, the 9 to 9:32, hanging around for 10 to 12 minutes, at the same time that we heard in the very beginning that the front door was wide open by the neighbors that were outside that early. I don't know. Hopefully come trial, we have answers to all these things. Because that's why none of it pieces together. There's so many different things. Like you can huddle this, and you can huddle this, and you can huddle this, and you can huddle this. But there's nothing that you can use to connect all four pieces. And see, that's a good point too right there. That's why I really think that him going back, if he actually did go back between 9 and 9:32, would have been the first time. No one knows how in the world that could have gotten there. That touch DNA literally could be a piece of dead skin that floated off of somebody else's body. Honestly. No, this is a made up scenario. That's just a possibility. And that's if you want to believe he handled it. If he didn't handle it, no, it literally could have been a piece of nothing. Cereal boxes. Cereal boxes. No, that was closer to the 911 call. And if y'all are talking about Dot, then she's already been proven to be a complete faking impersonator, and it's not true.
There, it seems dangerous. You know, there's a part of us that all think, oh my God, it could be.
At any given time, okay? Not me and my kids, because we barely leave this house, okay? Ever. But if you have a normal life where you take your kids to public school and you go into a building or another place out in the public and you have a job, and then after said job, you go to the grocery store before you come home, and let's just say you use the bathroom a few times, your kid uses the bathroom. Any given day, you have over a dozen people's different DNA on your body. At any given time of the day, for any of you normies out there. So you know. That's why I always give the cereal box, the cereal box example of you going into a grocery store, picking up a box of Crave or a box of Reese's peanut butter or whatever the hell, okay? And then you decide that you don't want it and you put it back. Some crazy person comes behind you and decides to buy that cereal, and then 2 hours after buying that cereal and bring it home, they decide to go do something real crazy. Your DNA could have been on the cereal box that was then now put on the hands of the person who then bought the cereal box before they went and did something cray-cray. You should. For real. You should. It's just like they tell you about how whenever you flush the toilet, like particles and stuff go up into the air. What makes y'all think DNA is any different? I mean, for real. Seriously. For anybody who goes and lives a normal life outside of their house, at least a dozen people's different DNA is on you at all times. And y'all breathe that in too. Y'all breathe people in all day, all day long. Yeah, for real. That's why, like, touch DNA and stuff, it's the court jester of DNA. People, and especially on brass, come on now. Like, they could have done a hell of a lot better. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, your hands, yeah, but like, seriously. Twist. You're gross. It is for real. Yeah, and people sneezing. So you're not, and you have to think about that too, okay? You have skin cells, you have dandruff, you have hair pieces that fall off, people's eyelashes, dead skin off their skin, and then coughing and sneezing. Like, literally, we are literally walking through petri dishes on a daily basis. It's disgusting. But 'tis life. Right? We don't even have to ever even have met each other, and your DNA is on me. Like, it's not cute. It ain't cute at all. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Oh, don't even get me started on those pin things. Okay, you go to a Walmart checkout, okay? Those people at Walmart that work the checkout, sorry, not sorry if I offend any of y'all that work that position at Walmart, but 99.9% of y'all are lazy, and y'all don't go and wipe off the registers or do none of them things ever. Literally ever. Y'all just stand there and let the self-checkout do what the self-checkout do, which is what it's for. But those pin codes are disgusting. You got people who do all kind of stuff, touching them baskets, touching the pin codes, touching the stuff on the shelves. And then y'all wonder why Bryan Kohberger was wearing gloves at Albertsons. I'm just saying. I think it's more like a dozen for people that go out and do things in real life. For me, I'd have my 3 kids and my 2 dogs' DNA on me at all times. In some way, shape, or fashion. Money? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, money is real nasty. Okay, this has a few more minutes.
You, right? Like, he could have been staring at you as a teacher's assistant and
Germs
targeted you. What do you make of it? So now, like, over a year now behind you, what is your take on it? Is it possible? Like, does it track for you? Is it impossible that he could have pulled this off?
There is a very, very clear, like, possibility that he could have done this. And when you bring up alibi, that's very like, it just almost makes sense to cover up like the missing pieces. Like if only there was an alibi, it would all make sense, but there isn't, at least from like what we all know. So it's all still so confusing to say like if he did it or if he didn't, but there are just so many things that he did after, like the cell phone ping and all that, that just wouldn't make sense if he didn't do it. So I don't know. I'm leaning towards did it, but I also hold a lot of sympathy still. I'm a very empathetic person. So not to say like what he
See, she's sitting here crushing on him and leaning towards guilty. That's a bit concerning for somebody who's a psychology student, honestly. Like if she truly felt like he was innocent, because notice that it changed. Which if this interviewer would have done a good job with her job, she wouldn't have said stuff about the phone pings and all that other stuff without giving actual factual information. And she didn't. She gave old, outdated information that's no longer valid per a bunch of proof. Okay. But even though she's sitting here literally smiling her face off, talking about Bryan and his sweaters, she's still leaning towards guilty. It's interesting. But it changed because in the beginning she said no. And now it's changing.
he did wasn't fucked up, but if he didn't do it, like I'm still holding that, you know. And there was just so much that went into it. It was all just so much. I hope like one day it just all gets figured out and can finally close the case.
And the school now, like, is everything sort of settled down? Do people still talk about it? Is it not a big topic of conversation anymore?
See, that's something else that I've actually wondered, which is why I wonder if that's why he went back the next morning too. I've wondered that too. And not because of like that house specifically. I mean, it could be that house specifically. We've heard some stuff, but he could have heard a rumor about that kind of thing and went over there freaking out because maybe that is where he got something. But there's no proof of that. And I don't want to say that he was back on anything and give that assumption out there whenever I'm so dead set on making sure that we don't have that kind of rhetoric out there. So while I do agree it could be a reason if he would have like maybe heard from like the neighbors or shit, maybe even heard from Dylan and Bethany or whatever. But to me, whenever they say that there's no connection between him and the victims, that means Dylan and Bethany too in my book because of the way that the state clarifies Dylan and Bethany. Y'all know how I feel about Dylan and Bethany, but the state technically clarifies them, and in all of the press releases and documentation, they're also listed as victims. So I feel like whenever Anne says what she says, that also means that there's no connection between them two either. Do you remember where that was said though? I mean, I can probably go in and like figure out a way to word Google search, and usually I can get like certain things to pop up. I just have to like reword some stuff. I'll be able to find it. Let me just ask you and Tara, is this something that Bloom said? Curious.
Yeah, when this like hit, it was like huge, biggest thing that happened. But last year at WCU was a very crazy year. It was a very sad year for Pullman, and then this kind of hit, and everywhere it was like whole Pullman's like name was changed to this is where it happened, and so it was just traumatizing for the entire school, and even like myself and a lot of people I knew. Like I even met people at the Vancouver campus because I'm at the Vancouver.
Not both of them. And I did a video about this, so I'm not going to sit here and try to fake like I remember which one doesn't. I'll have to go back on my videos. But one of them does not have victims' rights paperwork. And I found that it's not listed in the public documents where you can read the full document. But if you go to the case summary, it has a bunch of, like, it has a list of all the documents that have ever been associated with the case. And one of the survivors do not have victims' rights connected to their name. You have to go back and look at my videos because I damn sure did a video on it the second that I saw it, because I saw it and put a video out and I was like, this is weird. It's been a minute. It's been a long time. It's probably been over a year. I can't remember which one. I'm sitting here trying to remember, but I ain't gonna lie. Bethany, see y'all. There you go. See, Bethany doesn't have. That's why a lot of people don't think that she was there that night, but they're claiming that she was and that Dylan and Bethany were talking to each other. And that's been said 1,000 times over. And the forensic download of their phones is basically what sets the timeline for the entire crime, according to the probable cause useless affidavit. So, I know you did not just call it beneficial. Throw up. So, yeah, one of them didn't.
Campus now who moved because of the situation. And I talked to like so many people at my campus now who just were like in my class, sitting there like in front of me now, who I never met, like explaining to me how hard it was for them to where they had to move because they couldn't like even be in the same tiny little town anymore. Like it didn't feel the same, which is just so sad to hear about. And yeah, it's just very sad year for WSU Pullman.
Yeah, and you never hear of anything that the school has done for their students. Because, like, I know that it affected the people at the University of Idaho, but again, this was not a campus house. This was not a sorority house. These were girls paying rent, paying bills. Other people in the neighborhood were paying rent, paying bills, not sorority or college related. Plenty of them were. He was a literal TA at the school, taught their students. And instead of doing something to make their students feel better, like, did they have funding for therapy and stuff the way that U of I did? Curious, because you would think that like all 300 students that Bryan taught would probably need to see a counselor. At least once, right? Just to see like, how are you dealing? WSU didn't do shit. Wild.
One last thing, I just got like covered in chills. You bring up such a big point that I think we should probably dive deeper in. He was only there for a year.
Miss ma'am. No. Dude was only there for like, what, 3 months teaching? August. He moved in at like, what was it? Like June, right? Late June, July. School starts in August. September, October, November. Dude taught 3 months. Not there for a year.
And, you know, the victims have this, you know, kind of iconically fun looking life. Is it possible that he was just this outsider kind of wishing to have it, or became obsessed with one of them and just lost his mind one night? Or was this just a perfect storm that was brewing and they were just the unfortunate targets and it could have been anyone? It's so hard to know.
They both could be like such possible answers. Crazy to think about. Yeah, the party life at both schools were both pretty big. If you weren't in the party life, it was, I can definitely see more of an outsider like standpoint. But then again, like everyone was so accepting. If you would just walk up to any house, you'd be in a party. Like no one would like kick you out or anything, unless you're being weird, which could be the case. But you know, very accepting schools, both of them. Very kind hearts. Everyone had a smile on their face. And even when like tough times like this, even we still like would have smiles on our faces. We'd take a break from schools and like as a community, not even like the school policy, like we would all come together and be like, we're gonna go to a memorial instead, or we're gonna hold this event for them. So yeah, it was a very good community to have while everything else was kind of falling down around us.
Just in closing, is there anything that we don't have right, that just based on your experience, just in general, that people just have?
Thanks for joining, CC. CC. You know that CC's dessert pizza? I've been wanting that for a while.
Wrong.
Before the situation happened, they kind of make him seem to be like this creep who didn't have anything for him going, but he was like almost done with his life. He was at his goal. He had so much of a future ahead of him.
Yeah, no shit.
And to say that he didn't is just straight out lies. It's not that he was like a weird outsider dude who didn't have anything going for him. He was there, and oh gosh, I can't even imagine. That's all we wish for, to get to that goal where he was. And he just threw it all away, which is so sad. But either way, it's a very unfortunate trail of events that happened.
Tis all. That's it. Tis the whole thing. Let's see if this is going to do right. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. She wasn't very up to date with her information either, which was honestly disappointing, because you'd think, again, someone on iHeart that's not showing visuals and they're just giving information verbally, you'd think that they would have had updated info. She was in his criminology class. I guess, I don't know. She doesn't say. So whichever grade he was teaching, whichever grade the professor was working on, I will. But I'm not gonna, I'm gonna do it like I do this one. I'll go in there and like clip out what she says so I don't have to listen to too much of that other stuff. And then we'll talk about it. There's something we might go live about tomorrow instead of Thursday. I want to go back over all of the inventory stuff that got taken from his apartment and then his parents' house. I want to do it separately. But I want to do yeah, see, I have a whole bunch of stuff written down. I want to do the search warrant stuff for the house because I feel like it's important that we go back over the fact that Don Daniels misplaced, I feel like purposely, the blood evidence from Bryan's apartment. Oh, thank you, Jake. Thank you. That was sweet. Because she's a big problem for me. She's a huge problem for me. And a lot of people have not seen it. I know some channels have gone back over it, but it's been forever and a day since we've gotten these. So I want to go back over them. Because it's interesting to go back over them after we know so much. For sure. It changes things a lot. Yeah. She said her name is Bree. She's on the Turkey Boys talk to her. That's a good question. It's a good question. But yeah. This girl's name was Cassie. They didn't say they were changing her last name to protect her identity, just that they didn't say they were changing her first name to protect her identity, just that they weren't going to give out her last name, but that her first name was Cassie. But yeah, I've been wanting to talk about it for a while, but we've had like that huge document drop and some other things. And I actually have like I just have a bunch of stuff I want to talk about and just not enough time. So there's that. But I guess that's it. The kids asked me if I got done before 9 if I'd take them to go get ice cream. So I guess that's what I'm gonna go do. Is take the kids to Dairy Queen. Because they asked. So that's what's gonna happen. But that's it. If I decide to do a live tomorrow, I'll put the thing out early. For sure, I'll put one up for Thursday because regardless, if I decide not to do the inventory report stuff tomorrow, then I'm going to do it Thursday. But I'll go and check that thing out, JB. I'll go in and grab Bree's interview because I'd be interested to go over. She does show her face. Okay, good. Good. Yeah, I mean, I find it interesting. The people that like this girl, Cassie's her real first name. If you look at a roster, I'm sure she's there from that year. None of the people that actually have like a real actual thing with Bryan, like all have anything really bad to say. It just seems like introverted dude. I'm just only. But yeah, I'm gonna get some ice cream now. I will talk to you guys later. Let me see if I can get this thing pulled up here because I am just still not good at this stuff because I've got to do the outro and all the things. So that's it. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for the super stickers and the ones that joined in the memberships. You guys are awesome. Thank you for showing up. And I promise I'm going to try to make this more consistent, at least Tuesdays and Thursdays. But I guess that's it for now, you guys. See y'all. Have a good night. Please do not forget to leave a like on your way out and subscribe to the channel if you are not subscribed already.